My name is Ariel Diaz. I am 30 years old and I am an actor, musician, and teaching artist.
Awesome. Where and how did you grow up?
I grew up in Washington Heights in New York City. I grew up in I grew up in a two-parent household, then single-parent household to another two-parent household. And I would say grew up in a working middle class environment in while living in a low income neighborhood.
How was that like?
It it's very like it's different for your mindset because you are taught to believe in this way of thinking mostly from your parents and how you should approach life, but then when you see life in your neighborhood and how people interact with one another, whether that be poverty, crime, or anything of that matter, your psyche and judgment starts. You start like thinking like why if
Right.
what your parents have taught you, what your family has taught you, is actually true.
Mm, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Can you tell me what was it that was taught to you that you later on questioned? Or at
The,
least one
mhm.
thing, or if you can two, but one thing is fine.
The thing that I have always questioned was the idea of education.
Mm,
Always. My parents always told me that if you do good in school, if you behave, you do good, you have good grades, then good things will come, then good things
mm,
will happen. But
right.
then I see other people who are who are doing the same thing as I. They're doing good in school.
Right.
They're quote unquote behaving,
Right.
and they're doing good at school. They get good grades. They're making all these friends. But some of them are people that are kids at the time that were not the best behaved.
Mm, mm,
And I try to be a well behaved child and don't see rewards coming towards me. But then
right.
when you see like the quote unquote kid who was misbehaving, they start getting awarded for having good behavior.
Mm,
And that's where I started thinking like this idea of having a good education
mm,
is total BS.
right.
But at the same time, I also was like I understand where my parents are coming from when they mean that getting a good education is good. But that was more like down the line I started understanding that.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
But at that time when you saw that, you question it because
Mhm.
you're being good, but the ones that are being rewarded for being good are the ones that are usually bad,
Mhm.
more often than not. Okay, all right. What did you like the most about your childhood?
Ooh, which part?
No, like just in general, what did you like the most?
Uh, Not being in school mostly, or at least not being in the school that I was in. Mostly because I didn't grow up with a lot of friends in a public school setting. Like a lot of the times, you would either see me alone, and I'm like very calm, very chill. I don't
Right,
want any problems with nobody.
right,
And even outside of school, I was still like, I don't want any problems. I don't want any problems with anybody. But then
right.
when you take me out of a setting that is not in school per se,
Yeah.
you would see me be the most confident self that I have ever been.
Mm,
Like in like when I used to take art classes, because my parents could at the time they could afford to put me in those classes. Like I was excelling more in music and the performing arts than I was excelling in my ELA classes or in social
right,
studies.
right,
And then or like if I was bad at one in the sports in physical education
right.
in in school, you will see me do very well in swimming when I was
Mm,
in a swim team.
okay, okay. All right. And what did you like the least, or what was your biggest challenge growing up?
Whew. My biggest challenge growing up was having self confidence, I would say,
Mm.
or building that self confidence because there's a stigma of when people see that you are confident in your abilities,
Yeah.
they want to bring that confidence down or they want to make you feel less than.
Mm.
So what they do is like they go into like bullying tactics of like you don't like you're not really that good at what you're
Right.
doing. You just got lucky at this. I
Mm.
even saw it like when we play like basketball or baseball. I wasn't really good at basketball, but I improved as
Right.
time went on because I was getting tired of I of not being good at it.
Yeah.
But when as I kept on improving, there's always people telling me like, "Nah, you're not really that good. You suck. Like
Mm.
you just got lucky." And so when I'm told that you're like you just got lucky or you're not really that good, my self confidence was like low, like it got down, like
Right.
down. And that's why I'm glad that now I'm actually able to realize that as an adult, I'm actually realizing like these things in my childhood have affected me.
Mm-hmm.
And now my job and the job that I have to do for myself is how can I not like how can I help repair myself or
Mm.
like heal from what my childhood traumas
Yeah.
so that as an adult I could just continue to move forward without
Right.
saying like, oh, I gotta forget about this. This was in the past.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
pretty much rebuilding yourself.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see that. What do you do for a living?
As I said before, I am a teaching artist at an after-school program, and what I teach is theater to kindergarten to eighth grade children.
Awesome. Can you tell me the story on how you landed that job?
Well, I came straight out of grad school, and it was hard finding a job because a lot of the during the time, and this was during post-pandemic.
Mm.
So a lot, and what I saw on like these job searching sites is that a lot of these teaching artist jobs they were looking for teachers that had 2 years experience, 3 years experience, sometimes 5 years, and I was like, this is absurd. Like, why? How am I going to learn how to have this job, to do this job if I can't even gain the experience?
Right.
Um, but luckily, I was able to gain that experience with a program called WR Arts.
Okay.
And they gave me the first step to being a teaching artist. And I started seeing that, oh, I actually do like to be a theater teaching artist. I like teaching the subject matter to kids. And then I applied to another job for El Puente, an organization called El Puente, and it was a bit more different from WR Arts, where WR Arts mostly focused on like theater. This is fun. Like
Yeah.
this is the world of theater and how we could just be acting on stage. Whereas in El Puente, we're teaching kids how they could use the arts as a format to speak up on social justice matters.
Right. Right. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of play focus on social issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was a practice that was done back then, and now they still practice it somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I guess we are more free to express ourselves, like politically and social politically,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, you know. So I see that. What does a day of work look like for you?
A day of work is exhausting. Not because I don't like the job. I absolutely love the job. Mostly because it has to do with the thing that I've studied.
Mm.
It's exhausting because you gotta remember you're with kids and kids have a lot of energy. Some kids don't not don't. Some kids want to have a lot of energy and some of them don't. Some kids are shy and some are not. So you are dealing with multiple little personalities at the same all at the same time, and then once you're done with one class, then you got to get ready for the next class, and you're just like, I'm exhausted. This is a lot, but I am doing it because it's for them. And it's also more special for me because it's in a low income neighborhood. I'm doing it for kids that live in a low income neighborhood who may not have access to stuff like theater or music or visual arts like that. And the only time they do have access for that is when they're in school, but it's not giving them a more rich indefment of it.
I love that. Uh, and how old are these kids?
They're like 5 to 13 years old.
5 to 13. Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that you teach the kids? Like, how would you start a kid to learn the art of theater at the beginning stages? Let's say I bring my 5-year-old and I'm having you teach them from the beginning. How would you?
All right, so you're not the first person that actually asked me this question. I had a colleague ask me the same question about some time ago. I have to remember if they are literally learning how to read and learn how to count, don't give them a one-page monologue. Teach them the fun stuff. Do theater games with them. Teach them how using their imaginations can be a good thing, and teach them that in this space specifically you can be anything you want to be. But also but because they are 5, they're more open to the world, they're more open to like exploring. So what you have to always do is make sure that they are continuously feeling engaged, and that they are able to, and that they are always busy, because the moment you're not keeping them busy, they're going to lose interest and they're going to be doing something else. And then when they go into like more like 3rd grade, 4th and 5th, where they start when they start having a sense of their own individuality, then that's where you could start going more into like giving them some text. And even in 2nd grade, you could start giving them texts so that they could so they could improve in their reading skills if they're having trouble with their readings in school. And usually, so you could say like, it's like a process of teaching them how the arts can also be fun and educative at the same time.
Awesome, awesome. I like that. How about, let's say I bring my 10 or 11-year-old to your class, never done acting, and I just want you to coach them. How would you do it? How would you start them?
If they're 10 and 11,
they already know how to.
They already know how to do.
I hope so.
Yeah, they already know how to be their own individual as it is. Now the thing is, like 11, most 11-year-olds are in the middle school age, in the middle school group, and so a lot of it is peer group. They don't want to do something that may seem like so individualized that their peers are not doing, because of a fear of like being ridiculed by everyone else. And so in a sense, I encourage more like them to try to, like, even if something seems scary, just try it. If your peers think that it looks crazy or stupid, just let them know that, like, look, I'm I'll let them know, like, look, I do this for a living outside of here, and a lot of the times the things I do looks crazy and stupid and weird. And the thing is, you have to remember that when you're acting, you are being given the permission, or when you're acting and doing theater, you are being given the permission to do all these weird things. Like this, like you have to think about it this time. Like what you usually don't do in school that will affect how you are viewed by your peers. In this area, you don't have to worry about none of that. You could be as zany as you want to be. Of course, I will tell you, like, let's dumb it down for a bit. let's go from 100 to maybe 70%. So, but it's just letting them know, like, yes, you have that permission to just be yourself and pretend like nobody is watching.
Right, right. Are they divided into age groups?
Yes, they are.
Okay, okay. I figured, but I had to ask.
No, no, they are. It's very important because
Yeah.
there are things that middle schoolers say and do that a first and second grader should not be hearing
Exactly.
or doing. If
Exactly.
anything, and if anything, we tell middle schoolers, especially because some middle schoolers they are around the elementary school kids. We tell them to lead by example
Yeah.
and lead by. And when I say lead by example, I don't. It could go into many different realms. But when I tell them to lead by example, I mean like they are watching everything you do.
Right.
So whatever you do is going to reflect on you as well.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. I say that a lot, but I genuinely mean it. I do like that. So, how would you describe yourself?
As a
You. How would you describe yourself? Who, like, let's say, who you are as a person.
oh, as a person, okay. Whew. I am many things and not many things at the same time.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? I am still figuring it out.
Right.
I'd say that I am a human being who is just trying to, yeah, they're just trying their best every day. Understanding I am a human being who understands that the world is going to be working at its own pace, and sometimes you're not going to be working at the same pace as the world, so it's always just a good reminder to be kind to yourself and not try to keep up with the pace of how the world wants you to move, and just understand that eventually you will start moving into that pace. So to just short to so if I could just say in a word like how I would describe myself personally, I would say like I know there's a word for it, but for now I'll just say optimistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How would others describe you?
Others will describe me as or kind, caring, uh, quiet, sensitive, crazy sometimes. Not because more because of like the antics that I have done in my past of like not or like or brave, which is which ties into the crazy
Right.
because for you to be doing brave things, there has to be something that made seems as crazy to
Right.
others
Right.
because because maybe it's just something that they have not seen before, or it's just something that makes them feel like, oh, this is too much, and it's like sometimes too much could is what we need for us to understand like how we process things.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your biggest strength?
My biggest strength is my resilience. I do not like to give up easily. And especially in the profession of being an actor, there have been many, many, many days where I say, why did I choose this profession? Why should I still be doing this profession? And every time I have to remind myself, if I give up right now, then everything that I have worked for until now will just go to shit, and it doesn't mean anything at all at that point. Like you just gave, and it may seem like, oh, it's too late for me. Things it's like no, it's not too late. You've worked very hard for what you achieved. Don't choose now to give up on it.
really do love that. What is your biggest weakness?
Ay, 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 ay. My biggest weakness. It is not kindness, but it is not kindness. But my trust, like putting too much of my trust in others, I would say, probably, or like putting too much trust in others, or like my selfishness at times. Like I had to have these conversations with myself of and reflect back to younger me where I was like, oh, you were pretty selfish in these moments.
Mm.
But there were also times where it's like you did trust people way too freely, and they took advantage of you because of your kindness and how trustworthy you were.
Right.
And so like I would say like that will be both like a weakness and a strength, but I will say like how my selfishness can also be one of my weaknesses, because when I start putting everything on me, which is not a bad thing, but when I start saying only taking care of me, and forgetting to take care of other people or to start caring about other people, then you will see yourself being more doing everything on your own. And then you start asking, like, I don't have any help. Well, that's because you have been pretty selfish about how you approach a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit more about in which way you are selfish or you were selfish, if you don't mind? Maybe an example.
mm, at the moment, I can't really think of
That's
one.
that's fine. Yeah, we can come back to
No,
that.
because yeah.
Yeah, we can come back to that. All right. So I'm gonna make assumptions here because of the next topic.
Oh, now I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so like with my family, I would say, with with my mom and my stepfather, there have been times when I have been selfish. I have been selfish where I was only thinking about myself when it came to things. Like for example, like hanging out with friends. We always want to hang out with friends, and not really like our family. But there has always been times when my family
Mm.
needed me for things, and I was not there, and I
Mm.
was not there for them.
Yeah, I see.
And so, but whenever they needed me for things, I'm not there for them. But when it comes to my friends, I'm always there for them.
I see. I see.
And then I had to really start reflecting back on that of like, start being there more for your family, because how you treat your family now could also is a reflection to how you are going to treat your future family if you are to have a future family. And also that goes with like how you treat your family is also how you will treat your friends.
Yeah.
Even like long lasting friendships
Yeah.
that you have built bonds with.
Right.
Yeah.
That turn into families pretty much.
Mhm.
You know, you get to see them as families. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I see that. All right. I see that. So back to what I was saying, that I'm gonna make an assumption based on what you've said, and my assumption is that theater acting is your passion, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Is there any other passions that you may have?
I like music.
Okay, so
Yeah.
music, theater, and acting. So,
Mhm.
okay. How did you discover? How did you discover that theater was your passion?
Well, first I was a music major, or I did music in general before I was a music major in college. I did music since I was I want to say 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I started learning how to play the piano at 9
Yeah.
and play the congas, and then as time went by, I started playing new instruments like the guitar, and I honestly thought like I'm good at this. I would rather go to school for this than anything else because I wasn't thinking about like I want to be a business major. I didn't really care about wanting to do business. Didn't really want to be an engineer, like a traditional sense of being an engineer. Didn't want to be a doctor.
Mm.
I wanted to take more of the path in an artistic setting, if anything.
Yeah.
And so while I was in college, I was doing my classes and I was doing my music, but I realized like I didn't feel like I was challenging myself, or didn't feel like I was exploring a different area
Mm.
of growth.
Yeah.
And I still was like, I want to be in performance and I still want to be in the arts. So I auditioned for a play in my school, and right there I was like hooked. I was hooked, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this type of performance more than I want to do music.
Wow.
But then when I switched to being a theater major, I started learning more about what it means to be a human being, or like or in a sense, I was kind of healing a bit of like, or like, not healing. Healing is not the word. Um, I was learning how to effectively analyze all the thing, like how I feel about things,
Okay.
or how to effectively or understand. I was effectively learning how to effectively understand other people and where they come from.
Okay.
And the way that I did it is by learning about these characters and their
Mm.
situations, their societal situation, and how their societal situation affects their psychological state,
Okay.
and how also the political climate
All
of
right.
wherever it is that the play is set in can also affect a all the characters and the world that they live in.
Right. Right.
And
Awesome.
so I was more attracted to that aspect of performance, and I was also attracted to more of that aspect of understanding human beings as well.
That's awesome. Awesome. And who introduced you to music at the age of 9?
My parents.
Your parents?
My parents, because it was a thing of they wanted me to
Mm.
not do anything. And
Mm.
so they put me in music. So they put me in music classes. But I think they also seen that I've had an interest in doing music because like I was if it's not a drum, it was always pots and pans and some
Mm.
wooden, like the classic story of like a kid wanting to like play music with everything that they see. And so they enrolled with help from my aunt who informed my mom and my dad about the program in the school. They they enrolled me into classes so that I could start learning how to read music. I
Yeah.
first learned how to play the piano,
Mm.
and then the congas were the next where it was next. And I was more attracted to out of all of the percussion instruments. I was more attracted to the congas than I was
Mm.
to the piano at the time. But one thing that I understand is like in piano, I was first learning how to read notes, which is a different type of education
Mm.
compared to a traditional public school setting. Whereas like I'm learning what C, D, E, F, G, A are, what and B actually mean. I started learning like if you want to for treble clef, if you want to remember a line, use every good boy does fine. If you want to remember the space, use face. Like all that stuff. And all of that just started to stick with me since then. But yeah, that's really what it was. It's just my parents wanted to keep me busy, and as they were trying to keep me busy, I started to learn to love to have an appreciation for music. And then with being a music major, I learned I was like, this is not the realm that I want to be in anymore. I don't want to be in a school setting. I just want to go and do it.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. All right. What are you most proud of?
Mm, my academic achievements.
What?
The,
Yeah.
yeah, like my academic achievements. I never in my wildest dreams, even before I went to college, I never thought that I was going to get a master's in acting. That was never in my mind at all. Like my mindset in high school and in mostly in high school was like I'm just trying to get by. And then when college came up, I just said I'm just gonna do the thing that I know how to do so that I could get a job. And the thing that I knew how to do was music. So I was like, let's do music. Let's get a music education degree. Let's get a master's in music education, and then be done with it.
Right.
And then it's like I have a job, and that's what I'm going to be living as.
Right.
Whereas, but as time went by, things changed, and never in my plan did I say I want to get an MFA in acting. That came along mostly after I decided to switch my major into theater, and was also understanding where my what other actors have done to get to the position that they are in for those who are going in who came from a college educational setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the difference between the actors that have made it big and the ones that are still not even discovered
I
or
mean,
not as successful? Coming from the same background, let's say.
of
Let's say both actors are coming from the same background. What do you think is the
Mhm.
difference in their success?
I'll say the networking mostly. Like I know, like a lot of people talk and praise these schools like the Yale School of Drama. They praise it. Juilliard. They praise it. NYU. They praise it. And but they get all this praise mostly because their programs do have the connections. They have the networking connections to get these artists to be performing in big ways. Whereas I got my MFA in acting at the new school when there was an MFA program
Mm-hmm.
and an MFA in acting program.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest differences that I see is just that is like there's some who have good networking that have very good networking and they have their students go straight into the business right away. And even if they are from those big names that I mentioned, like some students they graduate and they are still struggling. They might maybe because there was like a favoritism and like I don't like to throw this word around like it's a big thing but it's a sense of like there is favoritism.
Right.
There are students who are considered to be favorites by the department, and they're going to have a much bigger push than students who are not that students.
Mm.
And so the students who are not that students have to get their own bootstraps and start working their way up so that they could be at the same level as the person who, let's say, makes it. And you could see, but you will see that slow rise as they go along. Like big as it's not as big as someone who has that educational status, but you will eventually see that rise
Right.
because of their work ethic and the things that they have decided to let go to allow them to grow like that.
Right.
And the best example for me was with was Samuel L. Jackson, where he majored in theater. He started in the 60s and 70s, but did not really reach that much success until he was in his 40s. And he was, I think it was in Jungle Fever,
Right.
that when he let go of all of his addiction, when he let go of all of his addictions, and he said he wanted to be clean and sober, that he was put in a film where he is a drug addict. It's fun. But yeah, like stories like that of actors that started with that same background, that they started in their 20s or in their 30s, you still see like that they were slowly climbing up the ladder,
Yeah.
or just going, or just and working on it. They weren't really caring about just only wanting to make it. What they wanted to do is make sure that they are able to create that networking,
Right.
and making sure that they are able to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
And if it means they had to let go of some things that are negative to them, then so be it.
Yeah. Why not? I agree with that. I agree
Mhm.
with making sacrifices to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as you're not harming anybody, of course. But if it's like sacrificing, let's say, some sleep to finish a project, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like maybe sacrificing hanging out time to get X, Y, and Z done, then
Yeah,
so
and
be
I
it.
think that that's also especially in the 21st century,
Yeah.
especially in 2020, in the 2020s. Uh, you gotta sacrifice hanging out with friends sometimes. Like, as much as I want to be hanging out with my friends and wanting to like continuing to build those special bonds, I have to tell them no. I need to I need to focus on myself right now,
Yeah.
because there are things that are important, not are important, just as important as our bond, that need my attention.
Right. 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 I don't think I asked you this because we just went on.
Yeah.
And it's great. I love that. But I don't know if I did. Let me know if I did. What are you least proud of? I know I asked you what are you most proud of, and that's how we ended up talking. But what are you least proud of?
Nah, man. Again, in the topic, one of the things that I'm least proud of in the topic of education, not double majoring. That is really it. Not double majoring, not
Mhm.
understanding,
Mhm.
not continuing that path of like, just because you want to go into a different realm does not mean that you have to leave this one as well. Because this one was more, I need a job. I need to make sure that I have employment, and I need something that is useful for me to have a job.
Yeah.
Because this one was more, because when I made that switch to being a theater major, I think that's when I became more career oriented, and that's where I wanted to keep going. Like, I wanted to grow in this aspect, because this is what I want to do probably for the rest of my life or until I retire. But then there is also the survival aspect. I should have double majored in this, or at least attempted to double major in this, and not care about how long it will take me to get a degree.
Yeah.
So that I could at least have a job
Right.
in that realm.
I think you still got time, man. You're young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm not saying
Mhm.
young to go back to school, but like you already involved in music, right? You were telling me earlier about how you know how to mix uh, beats or songs. You know how to produce beats, like somewhat.
Yeah, like I know how to record, and by mix, like record,
You can
mix.
always like master that by yourself because you
Mhm.
already have like the basics. It sounds like, right? So
Mhm.
and probably more than the basics, but let's just keep it at that.
Mm.
I think you can still do it and just like freelance. You know, that's it. Just do your own thing on the side, and hey, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? Anyways, all right. So What is something people wouldn't know about you unless you tell them?
Hmm. Hmm. That I am not really athletic. I am not athletically gifted. What does that mean? It means that, like everything else in life, I had to work for it. Like in a lot of, and this is just one of the fun ones. So, like, I was someone who was always active.
Right.
Even now, like I'm more active than usual. Like I can't sit still and not do anything. But before that, like in sports, I was not gifted in a lot of them. I was not gifted. I was gifted in. I would say I'm gifted in the arts, but when it came to like physical activity, like sports, like basketball, I was not good. Football, I was not good. Baseball, swimming, soccer, all the physical education, everything, I was never gifted to in that. But all the boys in the neighborhood were gifted in all in that as a kid. But but I had to really work hard to get to a level where it's like I am just good enough for that.
Mhm.
Or or even if it's not that, I had to, and if we're going to go into the senses of swimming, I was not the fastest one in when I first started swimming. Even kids who are starting for the first time just like me were faster than me. But through my resilience, for being very resilient and not giving up on it, I just continued to.
At what age you started swimming?
I started swimming at 10.
At 10. And
Yeah,
when did you start? Then when did you stop swimming?
in college.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. How was swimming like for you though?
it had its ups and downs. Uh, when I first started, I was not, like I said, like I was not physically gifted or like with swimming as most kids were, or I was the slowest one out of the entire lot.
Yeah.
But the sense of resilience of like not giving up and not letting the circumstance of my situation letting me stay behind is what mm, also propels me, like also has to like has a similarity to being a teaching artist and being a actor as well.
Right.
Cause in swimming, like 10, like from 10 and 11, I was very much not the fastest kid. But then somewhere along the line, I started getting just as fast as every other kid, and I started almost becoming their equal, almost their equal.
Right.
And yeah, and then around and in high school, my mindset was like I have to be fast. I stopped caring about like I gotta be first, I gotta be second, I gotta be third. I just started thinking I need to be fast. I need to beat my time.
Right.
I'm trying to go to college and I want an athletic scholarship in swimming.
Right.
Didn't get that athletic scholarship because I was not the best student. And my SAT scores were not as great as I would want them to be. But that drive of like I have to be this good, or I have to make sure that I am at a place where I could be just as equal to somebody else. It was it's a similarity to how I approach most of the stuff that I do outside, most things that I do outside of in my in outside of acting and also in teaching. But then in college, I just did 2 years of swimming because I went in community college. There's this thing of you're only allowed to do 2 years. You can't do more than 2 years there. And I just said, you know what? I think I could let go of swimming for now as like a competitive thing,
Yeah.
and I could just start using that energy that I had for swimming, I could use it for my studies and what it is that I want out of my life.
Right. 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 Okay. I see that. What advice would you give your younger self?
Be kinder to yourself. Don't worry. Like, ignore everybody else and their opinions. Their opinions don't make their opinions are not going to be the result of the outcome that you want to have. And like, if you think you're doing something wrong, you're probably doing something right.
Can you tell the public how they can reach you, where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Ariel Diaz Beato, and that's about it. Oh, I'm not gonna give my but yeah, you can find me on IG at Ariel Diaz Beato, and do I have to give them my email?
No, no,
No,
no, no,
alright,
no.
then I'm not
Just,
giving you.
just
I'm
social
not
media.
giving you.
People usually like.
I'm not giving you my email. You won't be. So yeah.
That's fine.
Or you could find me, on TikTok now that I actually have TikTok because I removed it and then they decided to put it back in the app stores. So yeah, you can find me IG, Ariel Diaz Beato, and same with TikTok at Ariel Diaz Beato.